So this really happened back in 2008. I bought a brand new pickup, brand new, paper plate still on it, hadn't even received the permanent tag yet. A buddy and I decided to drive up into northern Michigan, up into the snow belt, because where I lived in mid-Michigan, we didn't have any snow yet that year, and I wanted to see how this truck would handle the real stuff. Well, we found out. Somewhere near Johannesburg, Michigan, I managed to put my brand new truck straight into a ditch. A deep, snow-filled ditch, the kind that you're not driving out of. It was just the two of us, middle of nowhere, no cell signal, no houses for miles, and of course, no gear, no blankets, no shovel, nothing. We might have been in real trouble if it weren't for one thing. I still had the OnStar trial active, a service that I didn't even keep afterward, but that day, it absolutely saved us. Sitting there in the cold, waiting for help, I remember thinking, I should really have some stuff in here, blankets, basics, something, in case I ever got stuck like this again. Today, I'm going to show you how to build that exact kind of kit. A simple, practical vehicle emergency kit for under $100. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, Jeff here with Equipped and Ready. Around here, we keep things simple, realistic, and budget friendly. A vehicle kit is one of the easiest, cheapest, and smartest things you can add to your car, and it's a whole lot cheaper than a tow truck or sitting stuck on the side of the road freezing. Before we build the kit, let me tell you what it is not. It is not a bug out bag. It's not tactical. It's not a $300 overlanding setup. This is the simple stuff. The stuff that keeps you safe, helps you out, and buys you time until real help arrives. Everything in this kit is cheap, useful, easy to stash, and realistic for people on real budgets. Here's what goes into my under $100 kit and why it matters. Okay, so let's get into this. For starters, I am repurposing this 4Patriots container. This was for like a, what was it, a 4-week survival food supply. You could use whatever container you desire, a 5-gallon bucket, a backpack, a duffel bag, you do you. This works for me because I needed a little extra space because I got a little extra stuff in here, and this was just a good size. So open her up. And then the first thing we're going to talk about is utility gloves or work gloves. I have hands that just gloves don't fit right. They don't fit good. And these fit well. I got them at Harbor Freight. I can't remember how much they were. I bought them like 2 years ago on sale. They fit me well, and they were like $4 or $5 a pair. I think I bought a half a dozen pairs. But for the purpose of this, we're going to call these $5 gloves for this car kit. Next on our list is going to be flashlight. Now, I've always had flashlights in my car kits. We just found these about a week ago at Tractor Supply. They are USB rechargeable in an aluminum housing. Here's the USB-C charge port. They aluminum housing, like I said, pretty durable. Bright light, dim light, no light. Bright light, flood, spot, just by sliding the shaft in and out. Pretty decent quality. Pretty happy with these. They were $5.99. We are actually going back to Tractor Supply tonight to purchase more of these because we like them and we want to give them out as Christmas gifts. Next on our list is going to be duct tape, or in this case, Gorilla Tape. This is a rather large roll. You can get a 10-yard roll for around $6. It's not pretty, but it fixes more problems than you think. I like to put tape like this in a plastic bag so that if the adhesive gets gooey being in a hot car, it doesn't scatter and spread and stick to all your other stuff in your kit. So that's why it's in a bag. Next on my list is going to be a multi-tool. Now, I have an expensive Gerber. I know some people, Gerber, Leatherman, you know, blah, blah, which one's better? I don't care. I have an expensive Gerber. I don't want to tie it up, locking it into my everyday carry vehicle kit. So I keep that in my get home bag, which we will discuss in another video. But for this kit, I got this cheap Gerber clone. and it's got the pliers, the wire cutters, the crimpers, all the other tools, gadgets, and gizmos that are included in your typical Gerber, the files, the knives, the wire cut, or not the wire cutter, excuse me, the bottle opener, the screwdriver, both flathead and Phillips head, as well as a pick. It works. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not as good a quality as a Gerber. It's a little bit cheaper steel or metal. I'm not gonna call it steel, but in a pinch, there's nothing wrong with these, and they will absolutely cut, tighten, pry, and patch something together if you're in a time of need. I got these from Temu. They were $7.99. Absolutely worth throwing something like that in a carry kit. The next on my list is going to be basic first aid. This is pretty chintzy. This is just a couple band-aids, an alcohol wipe, and some gauze just to handle a minor cut or an abrasion. We do have get-home bag backpacks that we typically carry everywhere we go that has an IFAK. We'll talk about that, like I said, in a future video. But for this, just for a minor abrasion, good little $1.50 or so worth of stuff in there to get you by. Next is going to be a handheld radio. Now, for most of you, that's going to be a GMRS or an FRS radio. Everybody in my family holds an amateur radio license, so we kind of gravitate to the ham radios. Yes, this is the ever-loving, hated Baofeng, or ever-loving to hate Baofeng. But for something that I want to put in my vehicle and kind of forget about, this is a $20 radio. So the nice thing about this one is it's got a flashlight. It's got an emergency strobe. It's got a hand mic that plugs into the side of it. And we also have, it wasn't in the kit because it was on the vehicle, so I just went out and got it, but we have these window antenna clip kits. This one's an MFJ, you can't get that anymore, but there are other brands that still make the window clips. It's nice because you roll your window down, slide this on the window, roll it back up, gives you an exterior antenna that you plug into your radio, and you can reach out and touch someone with this antenna versus this rubber duck antenna. About 20 bucks, worth having, especially in the situation where I spoke about earlier, where I was broke down, or not broke down, but stuck in the snow, had no cell signal. That would have been the next best thing, to use the radio to get out and try to get some help. Next on the list is going to be trauma shears. Just like the amateur radio side, my family is also everybody involved in the medical field. So, we like trauma shears. I used to work on the ambulance. Wife was in fire rescue. So we have the brand name Leatherman Raptors. These are awesome trauma shears. They were used when I was on the rig. High quality seatbelt cutter swing out, and back here is a ring cutter that you slide. Let me see if I can get that on camera. There's a little groove here, and you slide your ring in there on your finger, and you can snip the ring and cut the ring off a finger. Anyway, these were $117. Kind of defeats the under $100 car kit. These, however, are not $117. And if you look at these on camera, can you tell me what the difference is? I don't know if you can tell. They both have a glass punch on the black part of the handle. They're the same size, they're the same quality. These handles might be just a hair thinner, okay? $117 Leatherman. $7.99 from Temu. Has the fold-out seatbelt cutter. Has the notched ring cutter on it. And if you were to fold it up, they sell these holsters separate. It even fits into the holster just like the Leatherman. I'm not sticking my $117 trauma shears in my vehicle kit. This goes with me where I go. This lives in the vehicle kit, and every vehicle kit we have, which we have 4 of them, all of them have these trauma shears. They're great for cutting seat belts. They're great for punching out glass. You know, cutting clothing if you had to bandage a wound. So, you know, it's not just for medical things. I consider it more of a tool. Nitrile gloves, surgical gloves, rubber gloves, whatever you want to refer to them as. Buy a box of these. I threw a half a dozen into a Ziploc bag. These are good for first aid stuff and for dirty work. If you gotta do some stuff in the engine bay or whatever, throw a pair of gloves on, try to keep your hands clean since you're out and who knows where, you might not have what you need to clean up. Couple bucks, you know, buy a box and throw them in there. What's that, a couple dollars worth of gloves in a sandwich bag? Tire plug kit. I bought this, and understand, I realize if you're going to be putting plugs in tires, you probably have to have an air compressor, and no, an air compressor is not in this list, nor is it in this kit. But I bought this about 8 years ago on Amazon, and it came with these really nice metal handled tools. They're sturdy, they're solid, but the plugs that came with it were stiff and they wouldn't seal well. And so I ended up buying a cheap slime kit off of Amazon. That's what the plastic handle tools are from. The slime plugs, these things here, are much softer and much more pliable. I've had to plug the tire on my Jeep. It's had a plug in it for about 7,000 miles and never had a single solitary leak on it. So the slime plugs are pretty awesome. You don't need a fancy kit like this. You can buy the slime kit for about $8 on Amazon. I just kept the kit and used the package. Next on the list will be some electrical stuff, some T-tap wire connectors. Those of you that have had to do electrical connections on the road, you know it kind of stinks having to cut wires, splice wires. These T-taps are awesome. If you don't know what they are, just Google T-tap wire connectors. It allows you to splice into a wire without actually cutting it. And then with your multi-tool, your cheap multi-tool, you can crimp on the spade connectors and whatnot in order to tap in. Good for trailer light wiring harnesses, whatever. You know, I bought a big kit of these and then threw, you know, half a dozen of each wire size in here. I want to say this is roughly about $3 worth. Good to have. Next is going to be fuses. I have every size, every amp fuse that there is, both mini and regular, 2 of each in here. And I do this because I don't know about you, but I have a habit of not replacing fuses if I use them, the ones that are sent by the manufacturer in the fuse panel in the vehicle. And it kind of stinks when you run out. So having some spare fuses in your car kit, never a bad idea. I want to say I bought a large bundle of these, a package kit, whatever you want to refer to it as. And I want to say I spent like, I don't know, 10 bucks. This is roughly about $3 worth of fuses in this bag. And that'll get you through. Zip ties. Zip ties are like duct tape. And bathtub caulk, although no bathtub caulk in this kit. Zip ties are handy. A handful goes a long way. This is just 2 sizes, probably a little over a half a dozen of each. I bought a kit. I want to say it was like 10 bucks, 8 bucks, something like that. And it was 400 zip ties of 4 different lengths, or 100 of each length. This is all I have in this kit, but they're cheap. They're worth getting. Good to have. Next on the list is ratchet straps. Ratchet straps, I don't have my good set in here. These are just in here kind of to remind me to talk about them. But I have compartments in my pickup and my Jeep where my ratchet straps live. So I've got the better ratchet straps in there, and you know, they're not that expensive. About $5 worth per vehicle. Buy a kit for a $20 pack and split it up between your vehicles, and it's about $5. Put ratchet straps in your vehicle and get it taken care of that way. They're great for securing loads, obviously, or emergency improvising. I mean, I've actually used a ratchet strap in the past to tow a vehicle out that was stuck in a little bit of snow. Not quite the snow that I was stuck in, but nonetheless, you can get them moving again if you have to. Mylar blankets, space blankets, whatever you want to call them. These, again, another Temu find. They were relatively cheap. I figured it out. I can't remember what the actual amount was that I paid for these. I want to say I bought like 30 of them for $20 or something. Maybe it was 20 of them for 30. I don't remember what it is. Anyhow, these 4 right here come out to about $1.40 per vehicle. 4 blankets, cheap, effective. They came from Temu, but they're no less quality than any other Mylar blanket I've had. And, you know, take my word for it or not, it is what it is. But, you know, compared to the trauma shears, these are Mylar blankets. A Mylar blanket's a Mylar blanket. Good to have. Next on the list, RX bars, Cliff bars, granola bars, whatever, pick your poison. Relatively cheap to get. You could buy a box of RX bars. We chose RX. You could buy a box of RX bars for about $10. Split it up into, 4-bar packs to throw into your vehicles. $2.50. And let's face it, food equals comfort when you're stuck or broke down. Last on my list is diamond braid rope. Paracord, if you have it available, diamond braid rope. I got this from Harbor Freight. This is a 1/4 inch by 100 foot. About $6. It's endlessly useful. Tie stuff up, secure stuff, loads, whatever. Build a shelter, and use this to hold up your tarp or whatever you're using for cover. That was pretty much everything on the list, and that was the emergency car kit for under $100. This isn't meant to be the do-all, end-all. This is meant to get your creative juices flowing and get you to think about going out and building your own car kit, because you can never be too prepared. With that being said, I have a few things that didn't make it on the list because I didn't assign dollar values. So this obviously is going to take it to over $100. But these are things that I had that I just donated to the kit that I don't have a dollar amount on. First is a sweatshirt. Never bad to have extra clothing. I donated a sweatshirt to the car kit. This is my kit. So this one is, valuable or worthwhile if you're in a cold environment, you need a little extra warmth. In my story that I told earlier, I could have thrown this on underneath my coat to give me a little extra warmth. Never hurts if you got something like this to throw in, use it. Fixed blade knife. I don't know why this didn't make my list, but somehow over the years I've accumulated a bunch of fixed blade knives. I used to be a diver. I used to have, this wasn't for a dive because it was a leather sheath, but I used to have a bunch of dive knives and whatnot, and I never think that you can go wrong having a fixed blade knife. I look at it as a tool. This one happens to be a Kershaw. You can get a fixed blade knife for anywhere from $10 to $15 if you wanted to toss one into your car kit. Small blanket. This is, just a little lap blanket. We never really used them for the house. We have a couple of them that came in blanket rolls. And again, good to have for a little extra warmth if you're broke down in the cold. Good to have if you wanted to throw something on the ground if you had to crawl into the vehicle and work on it, or something else to stop you from getting dirty. So you could use it like a tarp if you needed to. This one, again, this was about 16 years old, and it's a Grundon style rain suit. It's the tops, it's the bottoms. I used to work outdoors daily, and these were my grungy, keep me dry in inclement weather gear. I had them, and I decided I'd throw them into the kit. I mean, let's face it, nobody wants to get wet. If you get broke down, if you have a problem in inclement weather, if you got something like this, or if you wanted to buy a cheap poncho or a cheap set of rain gear, why not? These are obviously way more expensive. These are the Grundon's brand. Like I said, 16 years old, you get what you pay for. They're still going strong. But I threw them in here. I didn't put a dollar value on because, I mean, I've got my money's worth out of these over the years, but that's what they're in here for. Next is going to be, maps. We're from Michigan. We're not currently in Michigan, but we've got a Michigan map here. These are hard to get anymore. Paper maps are almost obsolete. If you can find them, grab them. It's always worth having them. I used to be an over-the-road truck driver many years ago, many lives ago, and so I have multiple. And this is from 20 years ago, 2005. Motor carrier Atlas. You can get them at truck stops. They're not cheap, but we travel all over the country and vacation all over the country and pull a travel trailer and stuff like that. And it just doesn't hurt to have maps of different states that you normally wouldn't have. These are hard to get for every state. That's pretty easy to get at any truck stop, but it's expensive. I just tossed it in here because I have 3 of them. I have 3 vehicles. We've got 4 car kits because I've got one for my mother-in-law as well. But hers unfortunately doesn't have an Atlas, but we figure she's not going to be driving interstate without us with her anyway. And lastly, this is really in here more so as a reminder for me to talk about it. This is the Ford Patriots brand survival food kit. This is a 3-day kit. If you're broke down enough that you need 3 days worth of food, you got bigger problems than what this kit's going to be able to take care of for you. However, this is a reminder. You can get the Mountain House meals, the single family or single serving meals, or I think they're dual servings per bag. You can get those and have those and make those up. The downfall to this one is that it does require things to cook it. You got to have pots, you got to have your water, all that stuff. You got to have water for all of them. But we have camping mess kits that have the pots, pans, cups, forks, knives, all that stuff. So we could make these in, and the burners. We could make these if we had to on the road. We put them in here because we have extras of them, so it doesn't hurt to have them in here. I recommend doing something like the Mountain House stuff. And I also keep a case of water in the vehicle, so we have plenty of water for us, for the dogs, things like that, if we had to mix up some freeze-dried food and have a meal or whatever, if the RX bars or Cliff bars, granola bars, whatever you use, don't work. So that, in a nutshell, is the under $100 vehicle kit. It's not meant to be all-inclusive. It's not meant to take the place of everything. I'm not saying this is the latest and greatest, but this is what we have. This is a start, and this should get you going and get you an everyday carry kit. Remember, you can never be over-prepared. So, why keep all of this in your vehicle? Because most emergencies aren't dramatic. A breakdown, a dead battery, a cut on your hand, a rainstorm, or your phone is about to die. A small kit turns panic into inconvenience. And inconvenience is a lot cheaper than a tow bill. So where do you get this gear? You can get it in dollar stores, Harbor Freight, Walmart, gas stations, Temu. Doesn't matter. The point isn't perfection, it's preparation. Something beats nothing, and you can upgrade as your budget allows. Preparedness isn't fear, it's confidence. It's knowing that you can handle the small stuff, so the big stuff never blindsides you. And for under $100, you can have that peace of mind. If this has helped you, hit like, drop a comment with what you keep in your vehicle kit, and make sure to subscribe. Stay equipped, stay ready, and I'll see you on the next one.